The race for U.S. Senate, 3 Democratic candidates are already in. 2 are politicians, Congressman Chris Murphy and State Representative William Tong. The other is former Secretary of the State Susan Bysiewicz. The latest, however, to enter is Sylvester Salcedo, an attorney and a 20-year veteran of the U.S. Navy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
What's really interesting in Connecticut politics is that for such a long time, we had 2 senators who stayed there and didn't leave, and now there are a lot of people vying for these seats.
It's a great opportunity to be able to contribute to the marketplace of ideas, and I hope to be one of those contributors.
It's interesting because the other candidates, as I mentioned, have had some experience in politics. You mentioned you did try to run for a state rep seat?
Yes. In 2008, I tried to run, because at the time I was a resident of Bridgeport in the East Side, and that's the 130th district. And I went up against 2 other fellow Democrats, Ezekiel Santiago, who ultimately was the winner, and Chico Rivera, the late Chico Rivera. And it was a tough fight, but it was my first time go around, and I was particularly excited because I took advantage of the public financing program that we had, which I very much strongly believe in, and I wish we had it this time around again.
So you got a taste of politics and a chance
and I loved
to run,
it.
and you loved it, and now you're back.
I could not get enough.
Why should someone vote for you?
Well, they should vote for me because I am a different kind of candidate. I've never previously held elective office. In this field, well, it's getting to be crowded. You have 3 other fellow attorneys. That's one thing we have in common. We're all good, dedicated people, good Democrats. But I think where I am different is that I am the only candidate who has served in the military. That's first and foremost. And the second one is that I am the oldest at age 54. And just to prove that, I brought you my AARP long form to show that I am, in fact, 54 years old and eligible for the AARP membership. But in addition to that, one of my passions when I was in military service, from 1996 to 1999, having been in the originally in active duty as a young officer for 4 years, and then I joined the Naval Reserve Intelligence Program when I was a resident of Massachusetts in the Boston area. But one of the areas that I feel passionate about is the issue of the war on drugs. So our campaign is designed specifically to try to wage peace on the war on drugs.
You don't think it's working?
It is not working. It was not working when I was actively fighting the war on drugs with the FBI for 6 months in New York City, for 6 months in Puerto Rico, for 6 months in Miami, and back to New York and so forth. And my experience is that it is a colossal waste of our precious tax dollars. It has not worked. It is counterproductive. It's very injurious to our own population, and in particular those who are vulnerable, the poor, the disenfranchised minority community. And what I want to be able to do in this election and campaign season period is to try to raise attention to the fact that we all experience and read about the 2 Americas, the 2 Connecticuts, the rich and the poor, and the achievement gaps, whether it's in school, the disparity, whether it's in the criminal justice system. And what I'd like to do is highlight that, but at the same time, during the campaign, be able to bring across the message to people that they should not be afraid. So when I say I want to wage peace on the war on drugs, I mean specifically legalize, regulate, and tax marijuana. That's first and foremost. I believe you had a guest here last week, the Honorable Congressman Larson, who said it's not a matter of when, it's not a matter of whether if marijuana will be legalized, but it's a matter of when and how. And so I would like to be part of that leadership team to be able to shape, based on my experience in the military, my experience as an attorney, my experience as a public school teacher, and generally my life experience. And so in addition to legalizing marijuana, I also would like heroin and other harder drugs to be legalized and taken off the criminal justice system and put into the public health system and give the power to the medical professionals and not.
So is your plan that it would make it, take it out of the black market, make it
exactly.
criminal, and therefore we wouldn't see crime?
Exactly. What we want to do is to be able to remove the financial incentive, because the profit margin is obscene. You can go to Bridgeport and buy a bag of heroin for $15 to $20. that little bag of heroin is really, the value is 10 cents. That's why you have all these drug lords, and specifically, again, speaking from my military background, I would like to bring from my Naval War College experience, General Karl von Clausewitz, in his seminal work on war, always wants naval officers, military officers to look for what is the vulnerability. He always calls it, where is the opposition vulnerable? And they call it the center of gravity. And to me, in this particular period, I believe the center of gravity for us is helping our friends and neighbors in Mexico. And so my strategy, and I've started it, to go to the four corners of Connecticut. I have been to Salisbury, visited the nice Democratic Town Committee teams there. I've been to Stonington. I plan to be in Greenwich on the 19th. And the people up in Thompson don't really meet during the summer, but I will get there eventually. And so what happens from there, I will then go to Mexico, and we'll continue on that point.
Sounds like you have a busy schedule there, and obviously you have to raise money and compete with others, but we wish you well.
Thank
and we hope you'll come back on the program and tell us how you're doing on that war on drugs. And you know, here in Connecticut, they recently decriminalized small amounts of marijuana.
Correct. It's a great move, first step, and I'd like to be able to push it even further. And thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.